Hey everyone, I am your host, Alan Perry. I'm coming to you today with a new podcast that is going to be centered on primarily talking about the video game industry, talking about games, equipment, tech, anything associated with video games and things you might use to play them. I'm going to be doing a lot of solo podcasts, a good bit with some of my friends that I'll have come on here and join me to talk about some of the same topics. And the one that I've got for you today is talking specifically about the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare title from Infinity Ward. So if you're familiar with Call of Duty, you are very aware that these games have been coming out for years. This was a huge part of my childhood growing up. This is what really got me into video games to begin with. And, the general feeling about this game so far from the community has been very mixed. Most of the Call of Duties in the past have had very glowing reviews from the community as a whole, and this one has seemed to generate a lot of, I guess, a very polarizing opinion on it from the people who are playing it. So we're going to talk about some of the patches that have occurred, some of the ones that are upcoming, some of the things I love about the game, some of the things I hate about the game. And then if we have time, I'm going to go into some of the, specifically my favorite weapon and perk combinations and stuff of that nature. And there'll probably be a few more where I get some of my friends to come on and talk with me about it as well. And these will be ongoing as Infinity Ward drops more patches and more updates. So, this is my favorite game franchise of all time. So, I'm going to try and do my best to keep talking about it as much as I can. But so, the game. So there have been multiple patches they've released already. These have fixed numerous issues that have been very apparent in the game. Some stuff a little bit more subtle that people don't really notice. Other stuff a lot bigger, such as the 725 over/under shotgun. That was so clearly busted, so broken that it was really making the game for players that have really been with the franchise for a while, unfun, almost unplayable. And so it seems like some of these, they've nerfed that gun 2 or 3 times at this point. You can definitely tell it's been nerfed at this point. In case, for those of you who didn't play it right at launch, it was a sniper. The range on it was absolutely absurd. The radius or the spread was absurd. You really just had to be looking at someone in their general direction and they were going to go down. And so, essentially, if you weren't running overkill and using the 725 shotgun as one of those, then you were playing at a competitive disadvantage, which I think personally, anytime there's a weapon or perk, kill streak, whatever it is, anything like that every single player has to run or else they're at a competitive disadvantage, then to me that's a problem. And one of the hallmarks in Call of Duty games that I think has been a hallmark in Call of Duty games, especially the good ones, and I'll cite a couple of my favorites specifically. Well, my favorite's Black Ops 1. I'll use that as an example. I could go into a game and use every single gun in that game and feel really confident with it, have a fun time using it. They were all good. Really, you're kind of splitting hairs over recoil patterns or, just personal preference, but you could do just as well with any of the guns in that game, whether you're using the FAMAS, the Commando, really any of the ARs or subs. I personally was a huge fan of the FAMAS, and because I had the recoil pattern down. And, in this game, other thing related to that, you weren't at a competitive disadvantage by picking any of those guns. The time to kill was all about the same. They all felt very similar. It's just preference. And in this game, with the 725, there was no other gun in the game that could kill so fast from the same range, the same radius. You really just, there was no skill involved, and it was becoming very frustrating to the point where a lot of people had stopped playing it for a little while already, which is, when it's so recently launched, that's pretty bad. So they've nerfed that now. I noticed this week when I was playing, there are multiple times I was still running around with it. One, to kind of test it out, and two, just because it is helpful periodically to have a good secondary, especially on close quarter maps. But there were a few times this week where I was shooting someone point blank and got a hit marker. When it looked like I hit him in the chest or the shoulder or something, got a hit marker and I died. And at the time I was kind of frustrated by it, but looking back on it, I'm glad that's happening. I'm glad that's how they've nerfed it at this point. To me, Call of Duty is not about running around with shotguns. It's an aggressive arcade style FPS shooter, or first person shooter, but it's never been about, if the best weapon in the game is a shotgun, that creates a very unhealthy play style there's already a lot of camping in the game, which is a totally another issue that we can address as well. But when the best, a camping heavy game where the time to kill is so low, where the maps are set up for camping, and then you have the best weapon in the game being a shotgun, it's just, it's creating a very unhealthy play style. So moving forward, I'm hoping that that's been fixed to the point where people start running it less. I don't want to run a shotgun. I do it because I was tired of being killed by them. And it's nothing's more frustrating than running around a corner, with your AR, your sub, seeing a guy dumping 3 or 4 rounds into him and just evaporating because he's already hit you with a shotgun. And that can still happen. It's how the nature of shotguns. It's a one-shot kill if you're close enough and if you hit the shot. But the 725 at this point had been too easy to hit that shot and too easy, to have that range and spread. You really some of the kill cams, even some of the kills I had gotten were just absurd. Where you're hip firing the gun halfway across the map and it's somehow putting somebody down. It's not good. I don't want a game. I like Halo, but I don't want a game that. I don't want Call of Duty to turn into that, where the time to kill is so high and you got shields and, essentially I would never be able to kill a professional Halo player because there's so much room for that person to be better than me when you're having to land that many shots, when you've got the shields to get past and you've got grenades, all these things at your disposal. That's really where the longer the time to kill is, the more unlikely it is for you to ever be able to compete with elite players. So the lower you get the time to kill, it favors noobs. And it favors bad players, or it gives them a huge boost. Because if me, and let's say I'm not at a pro level by any means, but I like to think of myself as pretty good. If I'm in a gunfight with someone who's just picked up the game, and you've got to land 5 or 6 shots, they're not going to kill me very many times. Even if they get the first shot off, they might not kill me very many times because I'm probably going to land my first 6, to be honest. And if they miss 1 or 2 in there, then that opens the door for me to turn that around on them. When the time to kill is, 2 or 3 bullets up close sometimes for some weapons. I'm and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but, like the MP5, for example, to me is the best gun currently after all the nerfs, but it's a 3-shot kill at close range. So if I round a corner and someone has an MP5, I have an MP5, whatever it is, and they start shooting at me, there is no chance I'm turning on them. There's absolutely none. Unless they somehow whiff 3 shots, and at that point, by the time I've turned around, they've probably gotten off 5 to 10. So you really have to screw your shot up pretty badly for someone to be able to turn on you in this game. So nerfing the shotguns has definitely helped. That's something they need to continue to do. I wouldn't even care if they took them out of the game. They won't do that, but again, to me, Call of Duty is not about shotgun play. It's AR and subs, and I get it. People like to snipe. That's fine too. Sniping's fun periodically, but to me, Call of Duty's always been AR and sub gameplay, and the guys that I play with, a lot of them would agree with me on this. But the way that I like to play is aggressive. I like to run around. I like to round corners and have to outskill someone, especially if they've seen me first. To me, that's fun. It's fun to have this moment where you and someone see each other and who's going to land those chest shots first and fastest and most accurately. And it's just, since the time to kill is so low in this game, and the way the maps were laid out to endorse camping, it's just that moment. It's like they've kind of robbed you of that moment, or at least as often as it should happen. That moment still happens when you and a guy, are around a corner, see each other, or you're, across the map, you see each other, whatever it is. But, it was fun in older Call of Duties to be able to play super aggressively and trust that if I'm better than this kid, I can still probably turn on him. I can stop on a dime, pivot, snap onto their chest, their head, whatever it is, and get that kill. And in this game, yeah, that's pretty much gone. Again, and like I said, unless someone just misses their shots egregiously. So that piece of it's very frustrating for me, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who agree. I'm sure there's a lot of people who disagree. But again, with the time to kill and the way the maps are laid out to endorse camping, it's gotten very camp heavy, very noob friendly. And, I heard from, on various online sources that that's what Infinity Ward wanted. They wanted it to favor less talented players. I'm not totally sure why they would want that. To me, and the way I look at it, and I could be wrong, but your good, talented player base, from just average to great players up into your pro players, to me, those are the ones that really carry your franchise once it's been going. Now, because the way I look at it is, if you've got bad players, you got good players. They're all gonna buy the game if they're interested in Call of Duty. Typically, your good players are going to play the game longer than your bad players. And what I mean by that is that if you're better at the game, you're probably an experienced player. So you're probably, you're probably more invested in it. You've played Call of Duty. You already know you like it. You're going to keep playing it. And the bad players are, one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to stay terrible. I guess they could stay terrible and keep playing, but we'll just assume they don't. They stay terrible and they stop playing. Or they get better at it and they keep getting better at it and they start enjoying it more, which, when I first started playing video games, this is where I was. I was bad at it. I kept working at it. I got better at it. And, now you pick up, I'm sure a lot of people are the same way. You pick up a shooter, everything feels natural. You figure out the general controls, takes you maybe a week, and it feels like you've been playing it for a decade. And so these are the players that are going to keep your game going. They're the ones that are going to keep playing. They're the ones that are going to keep investing money and buying all the stupid stuff that you offer, whether it's map packs or, now weapon skins, whatever, all that, blueprints, all that stuff. So it just confuses me as to why they would want their bad player base to be the player base that is being benefited by this. The pro community is the ones, and the talented Twitch streamers and YouTubers, those are the ones that are generating the most eyeballs on their game. So you would think in theory that, you would want that to be what's most important to the game developer, or at least, again, the way that I see it. And it's not that I don't, value the less talented player, but it's one of those things where, it should, a game should favor the people who are better at it. The people that are more skilled should have the competitive advantages. There shouldn't be things that are in the game to alleviate that, or to then go turn around and give handouts to the bad player. In prior games, it was like the score streak, or you had the abilities in Black Ops 4 that you would get just as the game progressed. You'd get it over a certain time. I hate that. You should not be rewarded just for playing the game. You should be rewarded for doing something either towards your team winning or kill related or something. But, I don't like free handouts. I like, and when I'm playing against really good players, that puts me in a bad spot, but that's fine because they're the better players. Like, if they're the ones stringing these things together and winning the game, they should be the ones getting the help and or the rewards associated with that. So, and I had to work to get better at Call of Duty and to get to where I am now. And, it just frustrates me when you give, and like in this game, where you just, everything's so tailored to camping and, helping players that aren't very good get kills. And anyway, to me, that's frustrating. Infinity Ward's straight out said that was like what they wanted, which I don't really understand. But it's not my game. I'm gonna but it's gotten, to me, it's gotten very stale very quickly. Me and the guys that I play with, I'll bring them on at some point for sure. My buddies Drew and Spencer, and actually a lot of people now I think about it. But one of the things that we found frustrating is that some of the games, when it's the gameplay, the actual gunplay, the shooting mechanics, all of it is so good. They did such a good job. It's so clean. It's so crisp. All of the guns are just a pleasure to use. But then you have the maps that are so camp heavy, camp centric. It's so slow. You have team deathmatch games that aren't even going to the time limit. I mean, you have final scores of 40 kills. I mean, what even is that? And I'll reference Black Ops 1 again. My buddy Spencer that I mentioned. So this was our freshman year in college. We're both 27. Well, actually, technically he's 28 now, but 27 now. This is back when we were 18, 19 years old when Black Ops 1 was out, and we'd play online every night together. We'd do game battles and play pubs, like whatever it was. And I mean, this is not a joke. My stat line, at least on that game, my win-loss ratio was almost a 5. My KD was like a 3.5. And we had a win streak at one point of like over 100 games. And, when we get into a game, the only thing that we already knew we were going to win. We played domination every time. It was just a matter of who was going to get more kills, who was going to get their chopper, their dogs out first. And we were just competing for kills the whole time. It was a blast. And so there were games, there were many games I finished in domination over 100 kills. Easily 40 or 50 every game. Usually more than that. In this game, we play a game of Dom. I think the most, I don't remember if it was Dom or Headquarters, Hardpoint, but one of those game types, the most kills I've gotten, I did get 60 once so far in this game, but that felt like an achievement in and of itself. Most games you're well under 40. Most games you're under 30. There's been domination games we've won where I've had 15 kills because no one's moving. No one's shooting. No one's fighting. You're just sitting in a corner waiting for someone to make a move. And if you're not, you're probably getting killed because you're running around and everyone's, sound whoring, listening to footsteps, just waiting for you to get on them. They start pre-firing and you're dead. There's nothing you can really do about it. Because you can't turn on them because the time to kill is so low. So it just really encourages very lethargic, passive gameplay. And to me, that's not what I want in Call of Duty. Call of Duty has always been the fast-paced, arcade FPS game. If I wanted to play something that was passive, tactical, and again, I know people enjoy those games, but I'm going to go ahead and say it, boring to me, slow, I would go play Rainbow Six Siege, and that's not an insult to that game. That game's a great game. I did play that game. I really enjoyed it while I played it. It was fun. It was a fun change of pace for me. But the reason I came off of that and went back to Call of Duty, Halo, is because I like faster paced. I like playing aggressive. I like having more fights as opposed to less fights. It's just, and with all the sound now in the game, and me and Spencer were talking about this earlier, and he'll listen to music while he plays, have a stream going on Twitch, all sorts of stuff going on, and he can't even do that anymore, because if you're not totally engaged with your sound and your audio, you're at a competitive disadvantage again. I would love to be able to listen to music, but unfortunately, if I actually want to have decent games, I have to have my ears totally dedicated to listening for footsteps because I already know the other team's doing that for mine. Which brings up actually another point about dead silence being and not being a perk. I won't go down a rabbit hole on this. I'm pretty sure a lot of the community agrees with me on this, but wishing that dead silence was a perk. That's another thing that would help fix this game because with all the camping, when you can hear the footsteps coming up on you, the other guys in their shot, if dead silence was a perk, that would help fix some of that to an extent. You'd be able to move and be a lot more mobile, sprinting around the map, playing that aggressive style, without the people camping hearing you coming. Now they'd still have an advantage because they would see you before you see them, probably, if they're sitting in a corner. but it would alleviate that. Oh, I know for sure someone's coming. Let me go ahead and zoom in or sight in, or just even be generally ready for this person. They would at least have to react to you flying by their screen if you're running, as opposed to knowing you're coming. So I don't know. I mean, just to get back to general thoughts, I think the game does a lot of things great. I think the gunplay, the actual shooting mechanics, all of that is fantastic. Possibly the best it's ever been in the franchise. I think the the create a class setup with the weapon levels going. The M4 goes up to level 71. A lot of the SMGs in the mid 50s, 60. All the attachment options, I think that's the best it's ever been. I love, I really, in the past, even attachments have only been usually upside, right? You put a grip on, it gives you better recoil control. You put, a mag on, you just get more rounds. It's interesting that they made the attachments now have downsides. So, and in a way, it's cool. I didn't know the way I felt about it at first. I'll say now I think it's cool, because it really makes you think, what do I value and care about in the way that I'm going to play this match with this gun, with this class setup, and what do I not value? So, an example being MP5. My favorite gun in the game currently. It was M4. They nerfed it just enough now to where I like the MP5. I think it's the best gun in the game. But anyway, different topic for later. But with the MP5, there's some maps where I want to play aggressive, but I still need to be able to hit medium sightline, shots. And there's others where I'm kind of like Shoot House, where most of the time it's very up close and I need to be as fast as possible. And I'll still have the occasional medium to lengthy sightline shot, but all in all, most of the time I'm up in someone's grill. And so you can take that and you can go, so we'll take the stock for example. You can take that collapsible stock, the tiny one, the big or the no stock option on some of the ARs, where you're getting that ADS speed and movement speed, but you're losing recoil control and something else, and or maybe aiming stabilization, something like that. But when you're up close, you don't need aiming stability, and from what I've read, aiming stability only affects the first shot. It's when you're physically zoomed in, you're sighted down, sighted in, whatever, with your left trigger. It's the idle sway that's on the weapon until you start shooting. And once you take that first shot, the aiming stability factor is already done. It's over. So, that's super helpful if you're trying to hit long range shots. Up close, not at all. The recoil, if you're up close, you don't need as much help with recoil. I mean, if you can't control your recoil on a gun when someone's 5 feet in front of you, then that's not the gun's fault. So, I like the fact that they're giving you options. What do you care about? What do you not care about? What are you trying to do with this class setup? And likewise for long range setups. You care about the stability. You care about the recoil control. If you're running a full auto AR, but you want to be able to hit long range shots with like your M4 or your SCAR or whatever it is, that's something you're going to care about. You might not care about the ADS time as much anymore because you're not planning on being up close and running around needing to snap on someone super fast. You might be sighted in a lot more. So I think that's a great feature they added to the game. So those are some things that I love about it. I like the kill streaks. Everything looks and feels super crisp, but and it's been beaten to death on the internet already. But the maps, hate the maps. Gunrunner, I think, is an awesome map. It's not. It's kind of 3-laned, but kind of not. Like your traditional map. I mean, it's more. It's got a lot going on, but it works. And I typically enjoy all the games I play on Gunrunner. Shoot House is a coin flip. I mean, it gets really. You can get. Yeah, I either end up in a game where I'm dominating people or I'm getting dominated. But in general, I do like that map. But honestly, outside of that, I mean, Hackney Yard to me is okay. I can't stand the maps. I mean, the cave map is terrible. Piccadilly's horrible. Grasna Raid is horrible to me. The majority of the maps I just can't stand. And not to mention, I don't like the maps mainly because they promote that camping style that I I've already voiced my opinion on that. I can't play aggressively on any of the maps because they're not set up for you to be able to play that way. I was talking to Spencer and Drew yesterday about, on your traditional 3-lane map in older Call of Duties, let's say you go down the left side, there might be a couple pieces of cover there for an enemy to be behind, but you see those couple pieces of cover and you're anticipating there might be someone behind one of them. So if they pop up, you've really got a 50-50, or you just trust your instincts to snap on them. You've got a really competitive shot at putting them down. Where in this game, there's not really any lanes, but let's just say you go left. Instead of having 2 pieces of cover, now you've got 18 boxes and little 14 caddy-cornered spots you can lay down behind and put a claymore behind you. Then you've got an air vent up top, and then you've got, some sewer down low that you can see up from, and then you've got a truck bed he could be laying in. I mean, there's so many options. You have no shot at ever turning on anyone or ever knowing where they're coming from or where they are. It just encourages people to lay down and wait for people to run by. And, to me, it's just kind of killing this game. That's the main part about it that's frustrating for me. So, thoughts on the game. Love the actual shooting and the gunplay. It's the way the maps are laid out and how camper friendly it is that has killed it for me. And it's easily the most frustrated I've ever been playing a COD, because I find myself, when I'm not playing it, wanting to play it because that gun game, or the gun piece to it, is so good, the gunplay. But then I get about 10 games in and I'm just frustrated. So anyway, they're rolling out a new patch. I believe this upcoming Wednesday. Today's November 28th. What day is it coming out? I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. It's like November 3rd, maybe. And they're adding a lot. This is a huge patch, huge update. So this is going to be pretty interesting. I'm going to go through some of the bullet points that they've got here, and talk about the ones that I care about. And so we'll go and start with the maps. So they're coming out with some of the original Call of Duty 4, the original Modern Warfare's maps. They're coming out with 3 of those, which I'm really excited about. Now I'm sure the community is going to find a way to ruin them for me with all of the camping. Hopefully not, but because these were good maps back in the day. But they're coming out with Crash, Vacant, and Shipment. So Crash being possibly the most iconic map from Call of Duty 4. I mean, all of them were pretty good in that game, to be honest. The Crash was the one with the helicopter in the middle that was quite literally crashed. Pretty excited about that one. I just thought that was one of the best maps in that game, so I think that was a great choice on their end. Vacant, I also liked. I was kind of indifferent on it at the time. There's not really a good way to describe this one either. It was just, there wasn't really like an iconic piece to it. But anyway, I think that one will be pretty fun. I could see that. I mean, I could honestly see all of these being pretty campy, but again, I'm just gonna bank on the fact that since they are, more your traditional 3-lane map, hopefully the people won't be able to do it quite as much. I'm already thinking Crash though, and Vacant. There's so many there really, man. There are a lot of places they could camp in that one. But anyway, I'm still gonna play them. I'm still gonna be excited about it, and hope that it doesn't happen that way. But just have a reasonable expectation that it could turn into crap pretty fast. But and then the third one being Shipment, the teeny tiny one just filled with nothing but shipping containers. Even if that ends up being horrible, I'm ridiculously excited about that. I think that'll be so much fun. It says in the notes here that it's going to be multiplayer and gunfight. Now, I mean, that map really is only the size of a 2v2 map to begin with. But if that was kind of the fun with it in Call of Duty 4, right? Is that they would throw a 6v6 on a map the size of my pinky, and you would just spawn and either rip off 10 kills in a row, spawn killing people, seeing them appear on your screen, or you would, get spawn killed immediately or spawn into grenades flying. So if nothing else, it'll be a ton of fun to play. So I'm really pumped about that one coming out. This should be a lot of fun. let's see. They're adding a ground war map called Port. Um, I'm not a huge ground war fan. My buddy Drew likes to play ground war a lot, so I might get him on here to talk about that maybe in the next episode. To me, ground war is just a little too spread out. And I'm not a huge fan of tanks and all that stuff. I just kind of like gunplay again, like what I was harping on earlier. So once you add in vehicles and all that stuff, it kind of loses interest. Feels a little too battlefieldy for me, but I can totally see why people like it. They're adding 2 new gunfight maps as well, Cargo and Atrium. Don't know anything about them, but again, we'll find out when they drop. It should be interesting. I think gunfight's a fun game mode, and I've had some success with it, so I do enjoy playing that when I've got one friend on or something. See, they're coming out with a new multiplayer mode. Oh, sorry, a couple of new multiplayer modes. Reinforce. So this one says it's supposed to be a hybrid of Dom and Search and Destroy, single life mode, both teams competing for control of 3 flags. To me, that sounds kind of awesome. I'm going to check that out. Dom and Hardpoint are my 2 favorite modes, with S&D. So you start combining those, I'm pretty much in on that. Actually, I think S&D is arguably the best game type in this Call of Duty because of it. It's already encouraging that slow gameplay. So Search actually feels kind of like how it's set up to be. Where, half the time I'm playing, domination. It feels like I'm playing a match of Search anyway, just because no one's really like moving around or anything. So that should be pretty fun. I'm kind of excited about that one. On-site procurement is a gunfight mode. So this says a tactically rich 2v2 mode with a twist. Begin with just your fists and gather equipment as the match progresses. Oh, okay. So they actually had this in the beta, or something similar in the beta, where you start. So gunfight originally was where you started with nothing, and there were only guns on the walls and the floor, and you had to grab them. So that sounds like it's gonna be pretty similar to that. That was pretty fun. It should be interesting if nothing else. Just a different variation of gunfight. Where instead of spawning with a random loadout, you're grabbing stuff off the walls. So should be pretty fun. Infected, it's hunt or be hunted in the survival party game mode. The only game mode like that I've ever played is like in Halo, where you've got people who are zombies, people who are Spartans or whatever. I have no idea what to expect, so I guess we'll just kind of see what that turns into. I got to imagine that it's something similar to that, but I guess we will see. They're also adding 4 new Spec Opses. I personally cannot get interested in the Spec Ops. I don't like fighting computer players. To me, it's just a little bit boring, too predictable, too routine. Even if I lose, I find myself not having a ton of fun. But again, a lot of people seem to like them, so it's good that they're adding 4 more of those. Let's see. I didn't think I thought they were also patched, like gameplay improvements or bug fixes, but maybe not. I thought there were. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, no, there's a ton. Okay. Oh, nope. Sorry. That's for the one that happened on November 22nd. Okay. Well, so then with that, we'll go ahead and we'll just leave it be for those updates coming up. If they come out with other like patch notes for bug fixes or things, or nerfs, buffs, whatever it is, we'll bring those up in the next episode. But for the time being, we'll just leave it at that. I think the new maps will be cool. The Call of Duty 4 maps will be sweet. Looking forward to those a lot. Gunfight modes I'll definitely check out. And I know they're coming out with 2 new guns. I did see that before. So I think it was like the Ram 7 and something else. That, anytime they add more guns, I'm going to be interested in that. Let's see. Let me pull them up really quick. If I can't find them here in just a second, we'll just move on. Let's see. Here it is. The Ram 7 and the Holger 26. So it looks okay. The Ram 7's an AR. The Holger 26 is a rifle in LMG spec. Not totally sure what that means. The Ram 7 AR though, I will for sure use because I'm an AR and SMG guy. So anyway, we're gonna once those roll out, I'm gonna get Drew and Spencer to come on here and talk with me about the new guns, new maps, general, maybe go back to some of the general feelings on the game, get their opinion on stuff as well. You guys will really like talking to them. They're my two best friends, or two of my best friends, guys I always play with. So we'll get them in here, get a second opinion on things, so you're not just hearing me rant about my own opinions. Maybe get some diversity, and also see if they agree with a lot of stuff I've said. Another thing we're gonna put together too is we're gonna get together, either maybe do our own separate and our own consolidated gun rankings and perks and our opinions on all the gun rankings and perks, and then also come up with our own like top tier, our favorite class. And by that I mean gun combo, perks, whatever I'm blanking on what they're called, but the special drops where you get with like the dead silence, ammo, stopping power, our favorite pick out of that, and all our kill streaks. We'll present all three of those and see where those vary, what our own opinions are on those, see how they line up with how the community feels, and see what you guys think. If you guys have any, I want to hear about you guys' favorite classes and what your favorite guns are, attachments, what attachments you think are good, which ones you think are bad, perks that are good, perks that are bad. I want to hear about all you guys' favorite setups too, just to compare. I mean, that's part of the fun of the game, is that everybody's got their own opinion on stuff. There is no one loadout to solve everything. So anyway, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this first episode up. Again, we're going to be dropping another one. This time I won't be by myself, but we'll be dropping another one here in the next few days to a week or so. It's Thanksgiving weekend right now, so I won't even be back home for another few days. But thank you guys for tuning in. I am your host, Alan Perry, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and tune in next time, and we'll talk about some of the other Modern Warfare stuff I was not able to get to today. And like I said, have a couple of my buddies on that you guys I'm sure will really like. So have a good Thanksgiving break, and I will talk to you later.